Alright, as we all know, the storage space inside a computer, they can be divided into different levels or different hierarchies, right? So at the top, we have the registers. I think you have known this before, right? In the computer architectures, normally inside the CPUs, it's not just the CPU, actually also the GPUs, right? For all the processors, they can deal with some registers directly, and they can move some data into a register. They can also move the data outside of the register. And for the data inside the register, they can also do some changes. So normally the registers, the number of variable register can be very small. We will have only a small number of registers inside the CPU and the GPUs. However, the registers can be very fast. So therefore, the processors, the CPU and GPU, they can handle the register directly in a very fast manner. Normally, the register is actually installed inside the GPU. These are chips. It's different from the memory chips, right? It's inside the CPU and the GPU chips. If you have learned about assembly language before, or you have learned about the compiler of the programming language, you probably may need to write some code in assembly language, right? To move some data into register and to handle them and then move them out like that. The register can be denoted by the address of them, right? So you can move some data into register number 1 or number 16, for example. The register is very small, it is very fast. So for storing a larger size data, then we probably need to have a second level of storage space. It's called cache. In most of the cases, the cache is also actually inside the CPU, the chips. It's also very close to the processors, and it is also very fast. Compared with the registers, it's slightly slower. However, the storage space in the cache is much larger than registers. Therefore, for the processors, if they have some data to be used in the near future, they can load the data into cache first, and when they plan to use that data, they can load the data from cache into registers, right? So the cache is more like a pool for storing some temporary data the processor will be using in the near future. Data will be switching between registers and the cache inside the CPU and the GPUs, right? Okay, this is the second level of the storage space. In most of cases, the cache is also very limited size. If you have ever checked the CPU and GPUs, right, the cache size is normally several megabytes. It's also very small actually compared with the data we have in the real world. And for the cache, we also have different levels. Level 1 cache is faster, and then we have level 2 cache, which is larger. And the machine will also need to handle the data switching between level 1 cache and as well as level 2 cache as well. So we know the cache is also very small compared with the real world data we have. If you have ever checked some CPU and GPUs, right, the cache they have, the storage space in the cache normally is several megabytes. It's very small compared with the real world data we have. Therefore, to ensure the machine can run very smoothly, we need to have another level of the storage space. It's called RAM. If you have ever heard about, right, the RAM is denoting for the random access memory. In other words, for this kind of memory, we can access any data inside it randomly and in a very fast manner. Of course, compared with the register and the cache, the RAM is much slower. However, the storage space on RAM can be very large, normally several gigabytes, and in some of the machines or servers, the RAM can be even like several terabytes, right? So also, if you check in some stores, if you plan to buy some RAM chips, then the RAM also have different versions of formats, right? DDR4 or DDR5 nowadays. Normally, the DDR5 is much faster than DDR4 and then DDR3, right? So the DDR denotes a double data rate. Normally, the numbers of DDR denotes how fast as well as how much the power consumption of these kinds of different memory chips. For the RAM memory, the storage space is about several gigabytes. It is still small compared with the real world data we may have. If we have a 4K movie, it can be several terabytes, for example. Right? Then we probably need to have a larger storage space, or larger storage devices. And then we show here, we have some hard disk, as well as the hard drive, as well as the BIOS, and other internet or network storage space available for us for storing our larger data sets, right? Normally, this kind of storage space, it can be very big, in several terabytes. However, compared with RAM, it can be much slower, right? This is according to the traditional understanding for the hard drive. Nowadays, if you have heard about the SSD, right, it is also very fast. It is very different from the conventional disk hard drive, which may need to rotate the disk and then we can access the data. However, for the SSD, we can access the data like similar to the RAM, right? Okay, this is the fourth level of the storage space we can have or we can use in a machine or in a computer. And then besides that, we can also have some other tertiary storage devices and sources. Like as shown here in this page, we can have different kinds of input sources for keyboard, the mouse, as well as some removable medium, the scanner, camera, mic, video, remote source, as well as some other sources. As shown in this page, is different storage space. They can form a pyramid, right? For the storage sources at the top, they are much smaller. However, they are very fast. And the cache and register, they are very fast actually. And then for the ones at the bottom, like the storage devices like hard drive, as well as some other external sources, they can be very big in terms of the sizes for storing the data. However, they are also much slower. And besides the speed as well as the storage space, the cost is also a main factor in deciding which kinds of memory source to use when we want to make a machine, right? If you want to make a machine which is very fast, then we can have a larger CPU with more registers and more cache, and we can also buy not so RAM, these chips inserted into the motherboard. And for the hard drive, we can also buy the SSD hard drive instead. In this way, we can ensure this machine can run very smoothly. However, the money cost for this kind of machine will also be very expensive. According to our technology nowadays, we can make very fast machines with no problem. The main concern will be a balance between the cost versus the speed as well as storage space we may require the machine.